Just to start off with, if you do have any questions at any point in time, we do have a little Q&A section at the top there. Feel free to go ahead and submit anything, and then we'll be able to get through that at the end. But thanks for joining us. We are NetBeez. We are a proactive network monitoring company, and today we will be hosting a webinar showing you how to gain network visibility with some hardware sensors. My name is Jordan Scott. I'm an account manager here. And this is our co-founder and CEO, Stefano Gradelli.
Hi guys, hi everybody.
And we actually recently gave this presentation at Interop ITX last month out in Vegas. So we hope we had some positive feedback from there. So we hope you guys enjoyed this as well. So the goal of this webinar today is just to kind of review some of the important steps to configure a NetBeez dashboard as well as the agents, learn some tips and tricks, and help you maximize the use of the NetBeez dashboard to help you keep you up and running at all times. So as you can see here, we have a couple important steps to help you set up a NetBeez dashboard. Stefano, if you'd like to kind of take us through these steps.
Yeah, absolutely. As you see, we listed 8 to 10 steps that you have to go through with the new NetBeez installation. Some of them, of course, clearly are mandatory, and other ones are optional. Of course, as you have your server up and running, and whether it can run on the cloud or in your premise, of course, you have to plug the sensors, which are the Raspberry Pis, or use the soft or virtual sensors that you have decided to use to monitor your network. You create the targets, which are the applications that you want to monitor with ping, DNS, HTTP, and traceroute. After that, you can also schedule ongoing network performance tests, as we call scheduled tests, and we'll see a little more in detail in the next slides. Some advanced settings, as we're reviewing this webinar, is how to configure and tune the anomaly detection settings. A very important step to have a good monitoring and good alerts from your dashboard. And then the last steps are pick and choose the notification options. So that for example, do you want to receive alerts via email, via Slack, PagerDuty? We'll review all these steps in the next slide.
So the main premise of this webinar is to give you guys an idea of how we're able to help monitor your network with physical hardware devices. So Stefano, if you want to go through some of the actual specs of the devices.
Yeah, so here you can see 2 screenshots or pictures of the 2 wired or the wired and Wi-Fi sensors that we have. Probably most of you can recognize inside that little case is a Raspberry Pi. That's our preferred platform to implement wired sensors. As also Jordan will say, Interop ITX, we had an on-end, hands-on session with that. In any case, there are really, for the wired monitoring, 2 options at the moment, fast Ethernet and gigabit Ethernet. For the fast Ethernet, we're using the Raspberry Pi 3 Model B, which is a pretty well-equipped sensor to do up to 90 megabit per second of throughput testing. And then for the Gigi, we have an Intel hub board that can push up to 930 megabit per second in throughput. As you're aware, lately, I think 2 months ago, a little less than 2 months ago, the Raspberry Pi Foundation released a new model of the 3B version, which is the 3 Plus, and that comes with the Gigi interface, but the throughput, the maximum throughput is at 300 megabit per second. So what does that mean is that if you want to push up to 900 megabit per second, you will still ship the Intel hub board. And we might update the fast Ethernet with the new Raspberry Pi model. Moving to the Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi is also in that case a Raspberry Pi 3, but we don't use the onboard Wi-Fi because the onboard Wi-Fi is limited in terms of signal, to get the signal, and in the B only support 2.4 gigahertz. So that's why we have decided to use an external Wi-Fi NIC card, which is the Asus AC56. It's a pretty well-performing card. It's a dual mode, so you can monitor on 2.4 and 5 gigahertz of band, and it supports AC. One thing to keep in mind that always were asked, can you monitor both wired and Wi-Fi networks with the Wi-Fi sensor? Well, the answer is no. You will need a wired and a Wi-Fi sensor in our case, because for simplicity, we prefer to keep things separated also on the dashboard and the way you report the data.
Gotcha. And now, how do you actually power these devices?
Yeah, so you can power these devices with a mini power supply, similar to one of the kind of supply for cell phones. It has a micro USB. Or we also give the option to have a PoE splitter, so it's in line. So this way, especially for Wi-Fi sensors, you don't need to plug it next to an outlet. So it's very convenient. But then in the new version of the Raspberry Pi 3 Plus, there will be a head, so it will be integrated with the board. Okay. So from a deployment perspective, it will be more convenient, and we're looking into that option.
All right. So you deploy these hardware devices. And what's the next steps are you want to start to actually be able to monitor stuff, right?
Yeah.
So what do? We will go and we'll set up some targets, correct?
Yeah, precisely. So you set up the building blocks, as we call them, are the ping, DNS, HTTP, and traceroute. And with those tests, you can really monitor a lot of applications or services. Okay. And there on the target is in our jargon, it's an application.
It's right? Like what you want to be monitoring, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And this is like ongoing testing. So in the case of, we can monitor a web application, and we would include ping, DNS, HTTP, and maybe also traceroute to keep an eye into the network routing and whether that accept the performance. You can monitor DNS servers, so you would include your target ping, DNS, and traceroute tests, for example. Or you can have a full mesh and ping and traceroute test, and this is good to monitor end-to-end performance amongst locations. Or we also have a TCP-based ping test. What does that mean is that you can also verify connectivity and performance to some other applications that don't run on the standard 443 or port 80. Gotcha. Another thing that we have, as you know, on the console is the interactive console with the agent. Could be another way to use this sensor to do your own custom tests from straight the command line, for example. All right, so you're able to just do it right from the dashboard where you're at to the remote agent? Yeah, correct. And I can show you maybe quickly here on this demo. Let me switch here to the dashboard. As you can see, this is our browser-based dashboard. I'm not going to go through all the kind of UI elements, but if I click on agent, I can then click, for example, on this virtual agent, and from the console, I have now a way to maybe do an nmap test against like an host, or I can do any other custom command straight from the dashboard. But yeah, the very important thing is like to define your monitoring strategy early on when you're on board with the network monitoring solution. Yeah, so I mean, in your experience so far, are there any common type websites, applications, types of servers that you see companies that are trying to monitor? Yeah, application like Salesforce, for example. Yeah, yeah, the CRMs, those are huge. If those go down, right, can like crush a sales team. They're just useless until you get it fixed, essentially. Exactly. Cloud performance monitoring is important, like Google, Microsoft Office, AWS, yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, all those are applications that reside on the cloud, and that's where you need a sensor to verify from the user perspective that you can access those applications. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So then, when you set all these tests up, how do you get notified? You get some sort of an alert, correct? Right, and that's where alerts come into play. Alerts are based on tests that you're running from your sensors against your applications. And you can generate alerts on any metrics. And in this table, you can review what are the metrics that we monitor at the moment, and that can generate alerts. So you can get alerts based on packet loss, round trip time, DNS lookup time, and so on. Again, they're listed in the table here in the slide. And based on those data points, there are different type of alerts that you can be notified about. Okay. Up, down are the typical alerts where something stopped working.
You can get this with like SNMP monitoring, correct?
Exactly. Then you have different way to notify those alerts. Or then we have performance alerts. Performance alerts are when things are half working, half not working, and that's where like the baseline of the watermark comes into play. The baseline takes care of the the average historical performance of a specific app or resource and compares it with the short term. So if you see degradation occurring, you get alerted. Or with the watermark, it's good to enforce SLA, so service level agreements with the ISPs, for example.
Hold them accountable, right?
Exactly. And you have then the data, because we save the historical data to provide like how do you say, you have a data to prove that something was not working as expected at least.
Yeah. So most time you call in and they'll say, all right, prove it.
There you
and
go.
You're kind of just like, well, this guy submitted a ticket.
Exactly.
So it was slow. So you receive all these types of alerts that can kind of get really annoying, right? Now, didn't we just implement something to help kind of take care of that alert fatigue?
Yeah. So think about like you have 20 sensors that are monitoring Google, and Google now goes down for some reason, which is probably is not the best example I could bring up because Google generally is always up. But take another website. In any case, that website goes down. Salesforce perhaps, but. And now you have like 20 sensors that are triggering alerts because this target stopped working. Here's where you don't want to receive 20 separate notifications. You want to get one notification that this target, for example, is down. And that's where incidents come into play. Incidents aggregate all these alerts into a common event called incident and send you notification about this problem. So we have like two types of incidents at the moment, agent-based and target-based. And it's like always the dilemma, is it the network or the application? Well, incidents give you that information. If, for example, a sensor is failing all the tests with applications, that's a network problem. The other way around, if it's under a target, that's an application problem. So this is where they come to play. And what we recommend generally is like enable, of course, alert, but only receive notifications for incidents. So that when you send those via SNMP traps or email via SMTP or syslog or an integration like Splunk or Slack, you just get the information, not too much noise.
That sounds like great implementation. So I see here, so that's all for the tests such as ping, DNS, HTTP, and traceroute. I know we talked a lot about those tests. Don't worry, those aren't the only tests that we run. We actually also run some schedule tests, so performance tests, right? Right,
and schedule tests, as we call them, because they're not run as often with a high frequency like a web app monitoring, right? Like a target in the end.
Not constantly, like the
not constantly, right?
Easily keep running the pings, right?
Exactly, because you don't want, of course, like just use all the bandwidth to measure your network performance. It's okay to do it once an hour or once a day, for example. So that's why we call scheduled tests. We have like at the moment 3 kind of types of scheduled tests. The first is iPerf, very known within the networking community. iPerf is a TCP and UDP throughput test. It can also run multicast, and it's good to do tests site to site or multiple site to one site performance. We support version 2 and 3. But the bottom line is that iPerf is really good to test internal network performance, right? Location to location, for instance.
Do you have any good use cases?
Generally, like enforce also in that case SLAs with internet service providers. This is more for private circuits like MPLS, right? But if you want to test your internet connection, there is speed test.
All right.
Probably everybody's familiar with the speedtest.net. It's offered by Ookla. It's a service that allows you to check your download and upload speed. And probably if you ever had problems with your internet service provider,
all the time,
you had to run that test to give them as verification that your internet is or not delivering as expected. So the beauty is that you can automate that for all your network locations and get that data. And if a location is not getting the expected bandwidth, then you can share the information with your ISP and eventually get it fixed, as we had in many instances.
And so is Google the only place that we run those speed tests?
No, actually in the next version or release, we are also adding NDT, which is an alternative to the Ookla speed test. It's NDT. We also wrote a blog post. You can check out on our blog. But it's provided by the M Labs. It's this consortium of institutions that want to really provide instrumentation and data to make sure that the internet overall performance is good across the board. And then we also have fast.com, which is a service that especially was offered by Netflix to verify the performance to the Netflix CDN network.
So there's just a speed test just for Netflix?
Exactly, yep.
So all these times that we've been having some issues, like I just told my girlfriend, like, hey, go check this site out.
Right, and you can see if it's your problem or actually the desktop or the actual internet. So definitely that.
Yeah.
And it's like a feature that was requested by internet service providers because, of course, they want to verify and assess the performance for their subscribers and be proactive to offer them services.
Okay. And then one more test, the VoIP testing. How does that work exactly?
Yeah, so the VoIP test is like to verify the voice over IP call quality. This is a test that is basically using UDP traffic and verifying that packet loss and jitter, which are two killers of VoIP call quality, are under good parameters. And the resulting KPI is called mean opinion score, which is a 1 to 5 KPI of call quality. And we offer that test. You can run it agent to agent. Whatever agent you have, wired to Wi-Fi, wired to virtual, is really good to make sure that your network can offer good VoIP call quality.
So now we're running all these tests. Do they just sit on the dashboard? What are we going to do with them? Actually able to create reports. So in the dashboard, able to aggregate all this information and you can export it to a PDF file. Right?
Exactly, yep. So, because of course, you have all this data, it's not only about using the data to troubleshoot problems or keep an eye on your network. You also want to know historically how your network is going. And always more network managers have a problem that they don't know what is the average performance for the user. And here's where the reports come to play. You can display reports on the dashboard. You can also save them as PDF. And you can also schedule emails to be sent periodically to your inbox.
So you can, if maybe management wants to know what's been going on.
For example,
if you need, like we mentioned before, sending this stuff to the SLAs, able to export all this information and be able to send it out to them, right?
Right. Exactly. And we have 4 templates, I would say, of reports.
Okay.
The network summary gives you a high-level statistics for your sensors and targets. Things like uptime. Do you have 5 nines, 4 nines? That's something that you can review from this network summary, as well as average performance of your applications, such as HTTP loading time. Then we have more specific reports about agents and targets. If you want, for example, know a specific location, what was the status of the network for the last week, that's where an agent report comes to play. Or vice versa, if you want to see how was the overall performance of an application, with the target report, you can extract that information.
So now I actually see on that image there, it says by group. What exactly are groups? Yeah,
groups are a way to group agents. I would say group a group of agents, which is redundant. But if you have a large network and you have it divided in regions, and maybe in each region, you know, you have a local networking group. You can do that with groups, so you have a subset of agents included in the report.
So like different states, different
right,
countries.
for example, EMA, different worldwide regions, and that's where groups come into play. Yeah.
All right, and actually reports are not the only way that you're able to export this information. We actually have some different API settings. Stefano, we can actually help you create a public dashboard with these settings, correct?
Yes, that is correct. So we have a public API available, very useful. This is something we released last year. And API is a way to get the data from your NetBeez instance without needing necessarily access to the actual dashboard. So it's a good way if you want to share that data with end users to build your own service status dashboard, or if you want to even integrate with other tools, right, that collect data from multiple network monitoring tools.
So you have like kind of all-in-one dashboard.
All-in-one, right, and correlate that information. So if you're interested in developing your own service status dashboard, there are different things you can do. Of course, we have the endpoints documented straight from your dashboard. We added there the Swagger URL. So go to your URL for your dashboard /swagger/index.html, and you can review all the endpoints that you can query to gather different kind of data from NetBeez. But also look for that icon, open and close graph, bar graph, and you can see that we really give you some endpoints within the dashboard. So if you click on that icon, you can see the actual JSON structured query, for example, for real-time test or agents. So you can start playing with that. And we also made available on GitHub, which is a public repository of our public dashboard. It's a starting point to build your own service status dashboard if you want. You can use that template, change it however you want. It's written in PHP. So that's the meaning is that you can install these pages on any web server, and then with your own private key, you can really gather the data from your dashboard.
Awesome. So if you at home have any questions or want to know any of this information yourself, there are a couple different ways that you're able to get help. You can reach out from our online documentation page. It's just simple www.netbeez.net. In the top, we have resources, then you can go for documentation. We also have our community page where you're able to, where some of our users will submit questions and other users will actually answer them based upon their experiences. Right on the website, as well as maybe the dashboard. Dashboard, if you are a customer, bottom right, there's a chat icon. You can reach out during business hours and there will be somebody on the other side to help respond back to you, as well as just simply if you reach out to support@netbeez.net, somebody would be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Lastly, if you have any more questions or want a more in-depth preview of our dashboard, you can feel free to reach out. Again, at www.netbeez.net, you can just request a demo and we can take you one-on-one through the dashboard and show you all the different features. At this time, if there are any questions, feel free to submit something in the Q&A portion.
Okay, yeah, so let me take those. We have the first question about which feature can we look forward to what are the next coming up features? So I guess in the next release is scheduled for June. We're looking to implement a new way to gather data from Wi-Fi sensors. So we call it the Wi-Fi or SSID view. So you're gonna have another tab in your dashboard where you can review aggregate data aggregate data about an SSID, right? Right now the data in the current dashboard, it's really broken down within each agent. So we said, why not view all the data in one place? So the SSID view is coming up. Another new feature that we're adding, of course, it's gonna improve UI. We're always looking to perfect the UI. But another big change is like more on the back end. We're gonna start using containers, increasing, of course, scalability for the server, and also easing a little the deployment. So the containerized architecture will be in the next release. And then let me see another question. So do you support large enterprises in multiple countries? Yeah, we do have many customers are medium large enterprises that have worldwide presence. So basically what they do, because it's so difficult to get the status from remote offices, especially with the different time windows, and most of like the NOCs are here in the US perhaps. So that's where, you know, something like NetBeez deploying distributed sensors come into play. So yeah, the answer to that question is yes.
Now, what about having a server in different countries?
Yeah, we can, especially if it's in the cloud, we have the option to deploy the dashboard through AWS on multiple regions, and also in that case, we have many customers had the requirements to have the data in their own kind of region. The sensors, of course, you can deploy and ship them the hardware ones, or if they're virtual, it's even easier. If you have a VMware environment at the remote offices or a Cisco SR, you know, router, you can deploy a virtual agent as a service. Very convenient.
And the agents are actually all already pre-configured, so that if you want to distribute them to any remote sites, you can just simply have somebody plug it in and they're good to go. So you don't have to have anybody touching it. All right.
Great. I don't see any more questions, and we're almost time to wrap up the webinar. So
yeah, we appreciate everybody hopping on and joining. If you do have any questions, again, you can reach out to us at www.netbeez.net. And we appreciate you for joining NetBeez, the Bee's Knees, and Network Monitoring. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.